Víte, že na Counter-Strike mapách se docela dost často objevovala Praha? Spousta map má nějaké lokace z reálného světa a snaží se připomínat něco, co je opravdu realistický, abyste si připadali jako, že prostě jste v realitě. I když samozřejmě v realitě nemůžete střílet a není to dobrý. Přesně z tohoto důvodu ohledně map mě totiž zaujalo tohleto video, na který se s vámi dneska chci podívat. To video se jmenuje The Problems with Realistic Maps in CS2. Já tady zapnu český titulky a poslechneme si, co tady borec vlastně řekne. Já nevím přesně, o čem to je. Každopádně jsou to největší problémy realistických map, tak let's go.
A smart man once said that there are two main schools of thought when it comes to designing Counter-Strike maps. Formalism, where you create the gameplay first with little regard for realism, to later try to justify it with visuals. And realism, where most of the geometry is based on real-life reference and you try to fit the gameplay around it. Nearly all of the maps we see in CS2 lean a bit more into formalism, not being based on any specific location, but still
Ono se to jako vyzkoušelo, třeba když si vezmeš Canals, tak myslím, že to byly Canals. Možná, že se ta mapa jmenovala ještě nějak jinak, ale Canals byly reálný místo a ještě jedna mapa bylo normálně reálný místo někde v Itálii, jsou často. A to prostě nefunguje, ten gameplay tam není dobrý, no.
kinda sort of looking vaguely like something that might be real if you don't think too much about it. Like last time I was in Berlin, I didn't see any playgrounds surrounded by 4-meter tall walls with an exit that leads directly into a sewer. But clearly gameplay was the priority here. And it makes sense. After all, people play Counter-Strike because of gameplay. Well, mostly. And even if
Přesně tak, spousta lidí hraje Counter-Strike kvůli gameplay, škoda, že žádný gameplay pořádnej nedostáváme od Valve a dostáváme jenom skiny. Protože kde se točí peníze ve skinech, že jo? Chceš se zlepšit v CSku? Konečně přestat být zaseknutý na stejném ranku, kde chytáš hrozné spoluhráče a posunout se mezi ty dobré hráče? Připoj se do CS Pro Akademie 2.0, kde tě budu trénovat já a čeští profesionální hráči. Kromě desítek výukových videí tam najdeš taky tu nejlepší komunitu hráčů, se kterými můžeš hrát, skládat týmy a pracovat na sobě. Místa jsou ale omezená, tak nečekej a připoj se ještě dnes. Odkaz je v popisku.
map is not realistic by any means, it's not the end of the world. It might not get to be featured in game officially.
Tohle je nějaký dropper v Counter-Strikeu, nebo co to je? Právě nějaká smyčka, nějaká iluze.
But it can still be very fun to play outside of serious matchmaking. While maps that prioritize graphics and realism often end up compromising on gameplay in some way. The most famous example of this is probably Canals. Being heavily based on real places from
Canals,
Venice
let's
that
go.
didn't even necessarily play that bad, but clearly you could feel that its developers had to come up with nonsensical made-up interiors to try and stitch together this Frankenstein of a layout, which caused a myriad of problems for how the map flowed and felt to play. I myself am quite familiar.
Na Canals bylo úplně extrémně jednoduché se prostě ztratit. Vy jste mohli tu hru hrát jako pořád do kolečka, že jo, tu mapu, ale stejně jste prostě přišli a tady v těch katakombách, přesně jak říkal, Frankenstein mapa, kámo. Úplně brutální, jako to byl labyrint. A zase, znova, hrozně úzký uličky. To je taky docela častý problém některých map. Proto třeba dokonce i na Infernu banan se rozšiřoval, že jo.
Of realism. Hangaroa, one of my maps from back in the day, had big chunks of it be based directly on the real-life town of Hangaroa. And even though I personally think it's one of my better looking maps, its T-spawn, even though realistic, was quite awkward to play around. But what if you nonetheless wanted to make a realistic map? Perhaps you were inspired by a real place you've seen or visited. What do you do then? Are you cooked? Do you just give up? Well, there were a few maps that seemingly managed to integrate real-life places, architecture and landmarks without sacrificing their gameplay, and in general playing quite well. But how did they do that? What's their secret? To find out, I decided to explore
Pražský most?
and analyze one of them. In real life, that is.
Hello and welcome to Honest Guide to CS2 Maps. Today I'm here with Lukivald, as well known as the creator of CS Alpine. Say hello.
Hi.
And we're going to find the E-card in real life and compare it, alright?
So for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't remember, Guard was actually one of the very first community wingman maps to be officially featured in game in 2019. Alongside Elysion, it has set a golden standard for 2v2 gameplay and layout
A jsme tady, jsme prostě v Praze. Let's go. Pražský most.
Pretty much all wingman maps follow to this day. And even though its visuals haven't held up quite as well, it still is very much recognizably Prague. More precisely, the area around Charles Bridge and its towers.
So we arrived to the first tower, to the start of the bridge, whatever. But Lucas is telling me that something is wrong. Lucas, what are you thinking?
So the bridge is flipped. We're basically looking at the castle from here, but in the map, it's on the other side, basically.
So we are already running into some inconsistencies. As you can see on the map, the Prague castle right there in the skybox is actually on the wrong side of the river. It should be on the same coast as the two-tower side of the bridge and not with the single tower. But of course, I'm nitpicking, and that's outside the map and isn't too important. Especially considering how this skybox texture is also used on Overpass, which is supposedly set in Berlin and not Prague, so yeah. And by the way, the real place isn't perfect either.
What's up?
Je to tam i v CS2, jako na tom Overpassu. Ukaž to. Protože tohle je starý Overpass, tohle je ještě goučkovej. V té CS2 podle mě už není Praha na
How the skybox texture is also used on Overpass, which is supposedly set in Berlin and not Prague, so yeah. And by the way, the real place isn't perfect either.
What's up with the broken water texture? Polemin, can we fix that? You can see the skybox clearly.
Regardless, crossing the bridge, we also noticed how its scale was a bit off. It felt much wider and very much longer than how it was in game. Also, I don't remember there being this many tourists on the...
No, protože kdybys všechno v Counter-Strike musíš zmenšit, kdybys měl reální vzdálenosti v Counter-Strike, tak jak jsou na těch místech, tak by to trvalo 1000 let to přeběhnout ten most.
Map. But that's actually explained by the bridge being under construction because of a fallen statue. That's some nice attention to detail.
So let's look down here for a second. So somewhere around here, I think it would make sense for the map to be.
Yeah.
Maybe even a bit further that way.
I'd say further on the left.
Yeah, even though the scale is off. So that's what something Polemin told me. Polemin is the creator of the map Guard, just so you guys know. So he told me that it's gonna be somewhere like the scale is gonna be off. So it's gonna be a bit larger or either smaller than its real life counterpart.
I'd say the map has shrunk the real place at least by a factor of 2, which makes a lot of sense. Large open spaces usually aren't that fun in CS2. Narrower streets and back alleys feel much more at home. And the further we explored around...
Opatrně tady s tím. Jako někdy samozřejmě moc otevřený prostranství, když budete mít moc otevřenou mapu, stane se vám z toho dát dvojkovej long. Když budete mít moc uzavřenou, stane se vám z toho Canals labyrint. Takže potřebujete vždycky najít něco jako mezi tím. Ale hele, nejsem map designer, jako jo, ale takhle tohle je názor hráče a obecný názor nejenom můj jako hráče, ale všech hráčů.
On this bridge, the more clear it became that most of the map's layout is made up. The park is totally different from how it should be. The drop is nowhere to be found. And the restaurant, I think, is non-existent.
So what did we learn today is that perhaps maps in CS aren't really fit to be put like in an actual place one-to-one, and that's I think what we often see is that it's inspired. Definitely. We can see some loose connections, like some...
QR kód z dlaždiček, tak to je mega hustý.
Towers or familiar buildings, but mostly it's made up, or at least very much molded into a shape of a level. And what does it mean to us is that mapping is hard. I think that's the conclusion.
Mapování je extrémně těžký. Zkoušel jsem to, v koučku jsem vytvořil 1 nebo 2 vlastní mapy. Dá se to zvládnout podle tutoriálu, ale jakože dělat třeba mapu na 1v1, což jsem dělal já, je úplně něco jiného, než udělat mapu, na které reálně bude hrát 5 proti 5 a klasický Counter-Strike. To je jako extrémně náročný. Warhol o tom má super videa, kde vlastně on si tvořil svoji vlastní mapu, přemýšlel nad tím, popisuje tam celý ten proces toho, jak se to učil, jak to texturoval, jak vymýšlel celý ten layout té mapy. Na to se určitě podívejte, pokud vás to zajímá.
Yeah. I also want to say that if you have a theme that you're working on, basing it off the real place is a good start, but you should definitely consider the elements and put them together so they work. Not that
Yeah, definitely. So
it shouldn't copy the real life place.
And that's pretty much the secret behind Guard's success. This supposedly realistic map turned out to be not realistic at all, basically borrowing just enough elements to communicate its setting and feel authentic, which is pretty much what all of those quote-unquote realistic maps do. And it works. People like them because the gameplay is good, and even those who could point out the inconsistencies usually don't care about them enough for it to be a deal breaker. So it's a win-win, really. I want to give a special shout out to Polemin, the creator of Guard, for helping me with the creation of this video. We actually even recorded a small interview that should come out tomorrow if you're watching this on release day, so look forward to it. As well, big thanks to my beautiful camera woman girlfriend, and Lukivald and Eus for being really chill like that.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Yeah. Like, share,
subscribe to the Titomir YouTube channel.
To mě zajímalo, tohle to bude asi Čech, ne? Docela zní jako Čech. To bylo cool třeba s nima taky něco natočit, jestli jsou nějací čeští mapeři a koukají na to. Určitě se mi ozvěte, můžeme je spolu vymyslet nějaký content. Tohle to mimochodem bylo super video, rozhodně podávám tady like, vy na něj máte odkaz dole v popisku, můžete taky hodit like, odběr. A T2Mur obecně zatím skvělý content, moc se mi líbí tenhle ten týpek. Díky, že jste dokoukali, odkaz na merch máte taky v popisku, připojte se do mojí Counter-Strike Akademie CS.cz a budu se těšit zase u dalšího videa. Čau čau.